On a grisly Orange County murder that happened last summer, the district attorney's office says 23-year-old Alyssa Lira decapitated her boyfriend, then fled to Mexico. Fox 11's Nick Garcia live in Anaheim with what we know about her arrest. Nick.
Right, Christine. Well, authorities say while this might sound like a cartel-style execution, it was not. Instead, it was a case of domestic violence. After months on the run, Alyssa Lira is behind bars here in Orange County, accused of murder.
We'll go to the literal ends of the earth to pursue justice for our victims.
A wanted murder suspect found and arrested in Mexico and brought back to the U.S. to face justice. The details are shocking. The Orange County District Attorney's Office says 23-year-old Alyssa Lira used a knife to behead her 55-year-old boyfriend, Enrique Ricky Gonzalez, in August. The motive still unclear.
His headless body was found inside of her home, along with his head.
This is the home on La Palma Avenue, much quieter today than when investigators say it happened 5 months ago. Anaheim police homicide detectives say Lira went to Mexico immediately after decapitating Gonzalez. The couple had only known each other for 2 months.
This is something that was a horrific death for this individual, and it's heartbreaking for the family to have to live with knowing that their loved one died in such a horrible manner.
The DA's office and the Anaheim Police Department worked with the FBI and Mexican authorities to track Lira down, but they would not elaborate on how she was found. She is now facing a count of murder and a count of use of a deadly weapon, both felonies. She's being held without bail and will appear in court to answer to those charges next month. Now, I talked to a good friend of Gonzalez on the phone today. He wasn't able to be a part of our story, but did tell me over the phone he was shocked by this arrest, still grieving the tragic loss of his friend. Live in Anaheim, I'm Nick Garcia, Fox 11 News.
It's a pretty wild story there, Nick. Thanks.
A child and a suspect have died in the latest police shooting involving Metro officers. It happened this morning. It was on Maryland Parkway near Wigwam. And that's where we find our Allura Lagarde with more on what happened.
Yeah, Latoya, just to go into it, you already talked about the area that we're in, 8400 block of South Maryland Parkway. Before in the morning when I was there, starting at 4 a.m., this whole area was closed off. This is between Wigwam and Windmill, as you stated before, entirely closed off. Multiple police cars here, a large enforcement presence, as well as other emergency crews and the coroner's office. And we know why that is. Following the briefing, when we were hearing what Captain Wiggins had to say, he was saying following this shooting, not only did it claim the life, obviously, of the suspect, but a child as well. Here's a listen.
Where a male was battering a female and attempting to take a juvenile from a residence. While officers were responding, they were provided additional information that the male was armed with a handgun and fired his weapon in the parking lot of the apartment complex. When officers arrived, they spoke to the female, who stated that the male was now inside of the residence with the juvenile and was armed with a handgun. Officers got additional resources to the scene, and ultimately the suspect exited the residence while pointing a firearm at the juvenile, holding that juvenile hostage. Officers issued verbal commands to the suspect to peacefully surrender, and the suspect refused to comply. The suspect approached the officers, still holding the juvenile hostage, causing our officers to discharge their firearm, striking the suspect. Simultaneously, the suspect, while pointing his firearm in the direction of the juvenile, discharged his firearm. Officers immediately rendered medical aid to both the juvenile and the suspect and observed that both were suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. Medical personnel responded and transported the juvenile to a local hospital, and unfortunately that juvenile was pronounced deceased. The suspect was also pronounced deceased on scene.
A Additionally, to further go into that, Latoya, when also speaking to Captain Wiggins following the presser, we were able to ask him questions regarding if there were ever any calls that had been previously made to this residency. Now, he did say that they have to further investigate that. Additionally, another question I did ask was how old the child was. He did not give an exact age, but he did say that they were young. Additionally, another part to this is we wanted to ask more questions, however, didn't have enough time to get majority of that answered, but they will be giving us more information in the next 72 hours, as is that protocol. Reporting, I'm Laura Lagarde, and now back to you. Just obviously very devastating, the fact that of losing a child in our community.
Yeah, that really hits hard for anyone in this community. You don't have to know these folks to know that that is a very sad situation that a child lost their life today. Thank you so much, Allura, for that sad report.
We are learning more about the victims in a double shooting earlier this week. Police are still looking for a suspect after 2 people were found shot and killed.
It happened at a home off Durango and Mountain's Edge. Fox 5's Sophia Brunsma has been following this case and joins us with the latest tonight.
That's right. I've been speaking with the family and friends of Brianna Denise Flowers since this investigation started. Friends and family have identified her as Brianna Denise Flowers. She was just 31 years old. Her son Emil is just 7 years old, and family says he woke up to find his mother in life-threatening condition. He's actually the one who called police, but both victims were later found dead.
Her family loves her. We're going to step up and make sure Emil has that foundation that he needs in this time. We're going to make sure he's okay. We're going to take the best care that we can.
Davis says Flowers reached out to her on January 21st about an incident involving her then boyfriend. Davis says police were called and that Flowers had bruises and other injuries and needed emergency care. Davis says by the time that officers arrived, the ex had left and was not arrested. Police have not confirmed with us whether this incident was connected to the case, but family says the ex had threatened to kill Flowers just days before she was found dead.
An 18-year-old accused of killing a friend after a disagreement over food is now in custody 2 weeks after the shooting.
Lamarcus Darden Jr. is accused of shooting Jarvis Davis at a Fort Worth apartment after Davis would not share his French fries. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager spoke to the victim's mom today. Peyton.
Steve, and multiple people witnessed this shooting inside of an apartment, including children. So Fort Worth police tell me they were confident in who they were looking for. We now know this 18-year-old suspect was tracked down all the way to Tyler, Texas. That's about 140 miles away from Fort Worth. He was tracked down to a hotel. Fort Worth police tell me it's possible he has family in that area, but he's now back in North Texas. That suspect is at the Tarrant County Jail tonight.
It's so senseless.
Senseless. That's how Sharika Kennedy describes the murder of her son.
Why? Now, that's the question. Why? No, my baby was probably genuinely his friend. My baby wasn't expecting him to shoot him. Everybody in the house was like, they thought he was joking about the fries.
19-year-old Jarvis Davis shot and killed inside this West Fort Worth apartment near Camp Bowie in 820 back on January 28th. Witnesses told police a group just got back from grabbing food at Wingstop when there was an argument. Investigators say Davis didn't share his fries with the suspect, later identified as 18-year-old Lamarcus Darden.
My son's girlfriend was laying on his lap at the time of it, and she said she just heard a glass break. A gunshot in a glass break.
Fort Worth police say Darden pulled out a handgun, shot Davis in the head, and took off from the complex. He was tracked down nearly 2 weeks later. Kennedy, a mother of 8, now with a missing piece in her family and frustrated, considering she says her son and Darden were friends.
How it happened is just, I'm never going to be okay with it. I'm never going to be okay with it.
And Darden transferred to the Tarrant County Jail yesterday. He is charged with murder. This evening, we reached out to his attorney. They got back to us. The attorney tells us he's not ready to make a public statement at this time.
But first, we shift our focus to a tragic incident in northeast Texas. where an argument over President Trump is at the center of a fatal case. A 23-year-old British woman was shot dead at her father's home in the state. Lucy Harrison from Warrington in Cheshire died after being shot in the chest. The incident happened on January the 10th last year while she was visiting her father, Chris Harrison, in Dallas. She travelled to the US with her boyfriend for a holiday and was due to fly back to the UK the same day. An inquiry at Cheshire Coroner's Court has revealed new details about the hours leading up to the shooting. Lucy's boyfriend told the court that she and her father had a big argument earlier that morning. It was linked to political views and discussions about President Trump, who was preparing to be inaugurated for a second term. According to her boyfriend's testimony, the conversation became heated and emotional. He said that during the exchange, Lucy asked her father how he would feel if she were ever harmed in a serious situation. Lucy's boyfriend said her father's response upset her deeply. And later that day, about half an hour before Lucy and her boyfriend were due to leave for the airport, she was in the kitchen when her father took her by the hand and led her into his ground floor bedroom.
I remember running into the room, and Lucy was lying on the floor near the entrance to the bathroom, and Chris was just screaming, just sort of nonsense.
But in a statement read to the court, Chris Harrison said the two had been watching a news report about gun violence shortly before the incident. He told Lucy that he owned a firearm and asked if she wanted to see it. He said he took it out from a bedside cabinet, the gun, and that as he lifted it, it suddenly went off.
As I lifted the gun to show her, I suddenly heard a loud bang. I did not understand what had happened. Lucy immediately fell.
Well, the inquest also heard that Chris Harrison had a history of alcohol addiction and had previously been to rehab. On the day of the shooting, he admitted he had relapsed and drank several glasses of wine. A police officer who responded to the scene later reported smelling alcohol on his breath. Meanwhile, local authorities in Texas had initially investigated Lucy's death as a possible manslaughter case. However, a grand jury in Collin County later declined to bring any criminal charges against the father. Well, the hearing has now been adjourned, but as the coroner prepares to deliver a final conclusion, the court is still piecing together how a family debate over gun violence and Donald Trump may itself have spiraled far beyond just a talking point and into a real-life tragedy.